our captains for this week on defense will be James Rouse will be the captain for a second time, and the other captain will be Corey Tyndall. And then on offense, our captain's going to be Tommy Schuler and Chris Jaspers. And those guys are the captains because of the way they played, the leadership they provided over the past, even during camp in the last couple of weeks. Having that going down, and anytime you go on the road, the number one thing you've got to have is great leadership. And we expect the 11 captains that we have now to provide great leadership along with the other leaders on this football team. That's the number one thing you have to do when you play on the road. So that has to get done by those players. Ohio University, we've got great respect for Coach Solich. He does a tremendous job. He's a tremendous coach. They're always very well coached. They're extremely tough. And it'll be a great challenge for us to walk into their arena and go play. I think when you talk about OU, you just think of toughness, and you also think of their quarterback, Tettleton. He's a tremendous leader. He's a tremendous quarterback. It starts with him. And, of course, they got two great running backs that complement him very well. So that being said, I'll take any questions you got. Smock, I guess we got to start with you because of that shirt. We were going to start with Landon, but he's out partying too late last night because his 62nd birthday, I guess. So he's not here, so you're second oldest, so we'll start with you.
Well, shoot, your name in Tyndall, and he's this is his third game in the program. I mean, he's got to be doing something right for you.
I've said all along that you don't have to be a senior to lead, and maybe one of the best leaders I've ever been associated with was Phillip Rivers, NC State as a freshman. And Corey Tyndall's been no different from the time he stepped out there. He's been a tremendous leader along with, and helps when you're a tremendous player. So those things kind of go hand in hand. And it's great to see him develop the way he has, and I'm just glad he's on our team.
You were talking about the two running backs. I mean, Blankenship carried so much of the load last season. How much more dangerous does it become when you now have Blankenship and Boykin that can kind of even it out?
Yeah, and they are. You said it right on. I mean, you hit it right on the head. They pretty much split the reps very even a week ago against North Texas, and both of them are tremendous backs, and they bring a big time 1-2 punch to the running game. And they ran the ball extremely well against North Texas.
Having a balanced offensive attack this year, being able to run the ball and throw the ball, however it sets up, how does that set up for the game plan that Ohio has to prepare for you coming into these games?
Well, I think you'd like to be able to continue to be balanced. A lot of it depends on what they give us defensively, but I've said from day one that we can be we may not be as good on the stat sheets as we were a year ago, but we can be a better offense, and that's kind of where we are at this point, and we'd like to continue that trend.
They've had a little bit of trouble finishing drives. They've racked up a lot of yards, but I think they've only got 34 points on the season, and they did find a way to win last week. But what has been their big struggles with getting down inside the 25 and finishing drives off that you've seen on film?
Well, I think one of their biggest struggles, Louisville's pretty good, is daggone good football team, number one. And, but I'll tell you the one thing about OU is when they had to get it done a week ago to win the game, Tettleton found a way to get it done for him. That's him. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he's done for the last 2 years, and that's what you saw in the last 2 drives or 3 drives that were critical for OU to go win that game against North Texas. He found a way to – he played his best football in his last two or three drives to find a way to pull it out for him, and that's just what he's done his entire career.
Dak, you're talking about big and tough in Ohio. Does your offensive line now finally kind of remind you of that, and with all the depth there too?
I don't think there's any doubt we've gotten better, and that's, we want to get to that point. I like to get to the point where that's what people talk about us, in our offensive line, and I think we've made great progress. Alex done a tremendous, job with those guys, and I'm anxious to be honest with you, I'm anxious to get on our bus and go play somewhere else and see how far this team has come and how much they have developed.
Players had mentioned yesterday, y'all mentioned to them that when you look at a team like Ohio, it's, there are individuals, but it's the fact that their entire team concept is what makes them so effective and so tough for so long. And he said, and you guys feel that you're getting toward that. How well do you think you've progressed in becoming that kind of full team, kind of concept?
Well, I think there's no doubt that we're the best team, that we've had since we've been here as far as becoming a football team. And I think this week will tell a lot, to be honest. I mean, when you get a chance to get on like I mentioned before, getting on a bus and going to somebody else's arena and getting an away hotel, and it's just us, and that's a good thing. And I'm anxious to see how we do respond because the kids are absolutely right. Ohio University has been kind of the ultimate team over the years, and they really play well together. They're good. They play extremely hard, and I hope that that's what we're saying about us after this game.
How much much have your guys been jazzed up, especially along the offensive and defensive front? When you think Ohio, you do think that toughness factor, and they sort of want to make their benchmark as that. So it seems like they've sort of been reading this as a barometer game for them as far as that physical standpoint.
No, it is. I mean, it's been their MO, and that's Coach Solich. I mean, he's done a tremendous job, with that. And like I say, I'm anxious to see how our kids respond and go play.
Doc, there's so much organization that goes into a week of preparation, but when you throw in the travel, and I know that's a big part of it, so that sort of adds to the week, and I know that's a very structured part of what you guys do.
Well, there's no doubt that game is won. And I've said it every week. That game will be won or lost by how we prepare. Starting today and how we prepared on Sunday, and of course Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right up to it. Now, the one thing that we do a little different than maybe some other people do is we do all our preparation here on Friday, so it won't change at all on Fridays. And once we get on that bus, we'll go straight to the hotel, have dinner, get up the next day, and go play. So it doesn't change a whole lot as far as our preparation goes, other than going to Barbersville, we'll get on a bus and go an hour and a half to Athens, I guess. So it doesn't change a whole lot. But, going into a different hotel, going into a different arena where it's, not all our fans there is a little bit different. And, when you go on the road, the first, you got to have great leaderships where it starts, and you got to be an extremely tough football team to go play in those environments. And, we got to find out if we are that.
You got to play a lot of guys this past weekend. I counted 67. That's an incredible amount of what you dress. And how good as a staff do you feel where you have guys like Josh Brown, Gary Thompson, they come in and they lead you in tackles even though they come in late in the game. Trevor Mendelson plays 13 plays, brings out 100% on the offensive line. I mean, that's got to be a good feeling that you've got guys in under a little heat if you have to use them further down the road. Yeah,
there's no doubt, because at some point during the season, and those guys are going to be, some of those guys you mentioned, Gary and Josh and Arnold, they'll be counted on Saturday. Those are guys that we felt all along that were going to have to play for us in significant roles, and they'll do that on Saturday, along with, of course, the other guys. But, at some point during the year, all those guys are going to be needed, and, at that point when it does come, it helps you, and it's important that they've played at some point during the year. So, Mendelson's a great story that's worked extremely hard. That's got the opportunity to play a little bit, and he did a nice job when he was in there.
How much better has the defensive line become now that, like what he was saying, you cycle in essentially 3 full defensive lines, tackles and ends, and there really doesn't seem to be much of a drop-off between first and second team, second and third.
Well, I think the important thing is number of snaps. Those guys, most of them were in the 20s Saturday. I think the most plays the week prior to that was in the 30s to 38. So, probably get into as a football team as the season goes along. If you're playing 70, 80 plays a game, you get nicked up, and by the end of the year, you're looking for people. But if we can continue rotating those guys in there, number one, it helps them stay healthy, it helps them stay fresh, and they can play. If you don't go into that game, you're going to play 30, 40 snaps. You better be able to play extremely hard for those 30, 40 snaps while you're in there, and that's happened up to this point.
Speaking of defensive line, with Sparrow, is there any clearer picture with him?
He's not going to play this week, but he shouldn't be out very long.
But that goes back to talking about the defensive line depth. In years past, losing Brandon would be almost catastrophic. Now you have the Dillons and the other guys to say, okay, it's going to stink losing Brandon, but we've got guys that can step in.
Well, that's important. That's why you try to, that's why you want to develop depth. And as you mentioned, those guys got the opportunity to play a lot Saturday. And that'll help them this Saturday.
Coach, in the secondary this season, so many people in those true positions. How much does that play in the fact of the performance that front four has been able to amass over these first 2 games?
Well, I think number one, we've been able to get it, with 6 sacks and the hurries and the pressure we've been able to put on the quarterback. It's helped that secondary, and again, secondary is a little bit. We talk about the amount of plays those guys are playing. It's the same deal. We're rolling 3 or 4 corners in there. We're rolling a couple of nickels. We're rolling 3 safeties. And what we're trying to do is develop a Taquan Lang and a couple of those young safeties. Michael Johnson, that at some point, they're not ready yet, but at some point 3 or 4 games down the road, hopefully they can go in there and play a little bit. So it's kind of, we've rolled a lot of players in there, and again, hopefully in the future that's going to help us down the road a little bit.
Kevin Grooms.
Should be fine. Could have played last week probably, but with Butler and those other guys, then he should be good to go today. We'll find out a little bit more today about him.
And it's part of your experience. We're sitting here in September, but you and your coaches kind of have a perspective, a 12-game season, it's a long season.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And if you don't have depth and don't develop depth, and when you get towards the end of the year, you've normally got some issues at certain positions, and hopefully we can avoid that.
You talked about the defensive front getting pressure, and especially with the middle of their line being a little bit inexperienced, it's a good chance to get after Tettleton a little bit and not let him get rhythm and get those 6-7 second windows to pass into.
Well, and that being said, you turn that tape on, and those guys they've got playing are solid players. He's had that program. He's been there a long time. He's developed, some guys, and there's not a whole lot of drop-off from what they played a year ago and what they're playing with now. I don't think we sacked Tettleton in 2 years, so it's important that we it tells you what kind of player he is, and it's important we get pressure on him, and it needs to happen because if he can sit back there, if he can break, contain, and get on the perimeter, then he's going to create problems for us. So we got to make sure that doesn't happen.
Is that something Louisville had success doing? Was getting after him a little bit and keeping him out of rhythm?
Yeah, they did. And Louisville has is probably going to get a lot of pressure on a lot of people this year. They're a pretty solid football team, so they played. Louisville played extremely well against them, as I'm sure they will a lot of people.
Back to Grooms, how much is he itching to get in the game? I mean, 5 carries for the freshman of the year. I mean, he's probably
He should be fresh, that's for sure. He should have good legs, huh,
I
Woody?
guess the anticipation. For
He's not real happy with me right now, by the way. So he should be itching to go.
Talked in here last week, talked about how few missed tackles. How was the tackling this game, and why is this team tackling so much better?
Well, I think number one, there's better players doing the tackling, and there's I think that, and of course Chuck and Adam and all of them have done a tremendous job working fundamentals and techniques. And a week ago we had 1 too many, we had 10, and which is our goal was always single digit. Now we had 10, but we played a lot of people too. We played a lot of players, and some of those missed tackles were from guys that hadn't played a whole lot. But anytime you can hold them to single digit, if we're walking in here on Saturday or Sunday or Monday, whenever our press conference is, and we're at single digit missed tackles, then probably a pretty good chance we win the game.
Coach, looking back on the game last year, out to a quick 14-0 lead, going in trailing by 3 at the half. What do you take away from that game that show this team how quickly Ohio can jump back on someone and get after you?
Well, I just think you take away from that game that against these guys, they're going to, from the time the whistle blows until the game's over, these guys are going to fight you. I mean, they're going to fight from start to finish, and we better too, because they're going to play extremely hard, and they're going to be extremely tough, and the game's never over till it's over against these guys because they know how to win, and they play extremely hard. So, if you don't match their intensity, you've got no chance.
Should be a great atmosphere. They had 24-5 last week, and I'm sure North Texas brought very little of that. So, there's going to be a lot of folks wearing lighter green at this game this week. It should be crazy.
I think it'll be a great atmosphere. At 8 o'clock at night, and it'll be filled up, and it should be. I'm sure it'll be a great atmosphere. I'm sure there'll be a lot of our people there too.
Jasper sort of took it upon himself. He heard so much about the nose guard that Gardner Webb had. He sort of took that on himself as a personal challenge, didn't he?
Well, he does, and he takes everything as a personal challenge. That's why he's number one. He's a captain. He just works so hard, and he was a guy that came here without a scholarship and earned one, and just he takes charge up there. That offensive line does a tremendous job, and every week he wants to play his best football, and I'm sure he'll do the same thing this week.
And the mental side of the game for him, he knows where everybody is supposed to be at on the field. And it takes a pretty special individual to know, not just the offensive line calls, but where all the receivers and things are going to be. That way he can get his team into position.
He does. He does a great job, getting all our guys in the right protections and sliding things the right way and IDing the mic and the whole thing he has to do. He does a tremendous job of doing that.
Your leadership in that area, I mean, I see Jasper, he's out there, talking to Selby, yelling at him, letting him know things from sideline, talking to him when he comes to the sideline. And we're seeing a lot of that when you get those upperclassmen out of there and the young guys are in there. They're still working their position. That's got to be a great feeling.
Well, it's a great feeling to see the sideline and see the leadership that we've had. It's the first time since I've been here that we've actually, we've got great leadership on this football team. Don't get me wrong, there's been some leadership, but the numbers, and when you're talking, you see we have 11 captains of 11 different people that have been named up to this point going into our third game. There's some other guys out there that provide great leadership that will be their turn coming up. So, when football teams and players take ownership in that team, it's a good feeling as a coach, and you're going to be a better team because of it.
Getting back to Jazz first and your offensive line, they seem to think there are some different challenges in playing Ohio's front four schematically. They kind of like to slide around and stuff.
Yeah, they do. There's different challenges every week. I mean, last week was a little bit different challenge than we got the week prior to that, and Ohio will provide even more challenges. They're 4 down, but they also will line up in 3 down, so you get a couple different fronts. And I think again, the thing that you see when you turn that tape on with these guys, how hard they play and how they strain, and they just play extremely hard.
Had a linebacker come in, make his first start, and he ends up Mackey's Division Player of the Week or something like that for defense. What did you see from Johnson as far as on film? There's not much to go off of.
You know, you just watch those guys play, and they take one guy out and plug him in. They're clones. You know, they are. They just they're just good football players. You know, the state of Ohio's got really good players, and Ohio U does a tremendous job of recruiting good football players that you can tell football's important to them, and they like to play because they play extremely hard.
Guys like Baxter, Houston, you had any closer to coming back then?
I think all the above will practice this week. You know, they'll all be out there. They'll all be full speed. And you know, the one thing that's Selby's playing really well right now, and we've got to get Selby in the game because he's a good player. So he's going to play a lot, and we'll see where Dees is. But Baxter's going to practice full speed today, and we'll see how far along he comes. And then Houston was close to playing a week ago, so I would guess he'll play this week.
How are things going with Billy Mitchell?
I doubt that Billy Mitchell ever play. You know, if he was my son, I wouldn't let him play. I mean, he's out 3 months a year ago with a concussion, and to have the kind of concussion he's had this year, he's probably will not. I would recommend, to be honest, he doesn't play because it's not worth it on his part, to be honest. He's tremendous.
It's a shame, because when you talk about football means something to them, and that's a guy that seems that's a very prevalent case.
It does, but also the quality of life you're going to have after football is more important. And if he's my son, I sure wouldn't want him back out there with everything that's going on with these concussions and all that out there right now. I mean, there's a lot more important things down the road for him than football. He's never going to make a living playing football. He's going to make a living as an accountant or an attorney or a doctor or something. And he's got to make sure that he's got a quality of life that he can enjoy himself. Okay, thanks, guys.